Welcome back to the Four Podmen, the wrestling podcast we bring you each and every week on the Dynamo Podcast Network. Head over to YouTube, smash that subscribe and bell notification button. Audio versions of the show are available on Anchor. And if you'd like to contact the show about a topic or a guest spot or something you'd like us to discuss, you can hit us up on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. Joining me tonight, as always, for our episode is the Four Podmen, Ian, Joe, and the D-O-double-G, my hot tag partner. And tonight we're going to continue our series looking at, some would say, the most famous strap in the business, the IC belt. And this episode we're going to start looking from 1991 to 2000. So, man, where do we begin with this one? This very different kind of context to 79 to 90. 54 reigns in this period. 54 reigns. Not Roman
I knew you
reigns,
said a lot,
reigns.
but I thought you were exaggerating.
I'm not the Roman kind.
6 times the belt had to be vacated. 6 times in this time. Longest reign was 265 days. We won't give that away, who it was. And the shortest reign is shared by 3 people, which I'm sure most people know, which was 1 day. So we kick off 1991. Ian is wearing the actual shirt for it. Bret the Hitman Hart at SummerSlam 1991 holds the belt for 144 days. I suppose, where do we start with this? As I look down through the different reigns and the different names, yeah. But as I look at it and I look down through the names
For the belt Warrior didn't want.
yeah, but when you look at it and you think about the belt being the gatekeeper for the next step up, it's only true for a fraction of the men in this decade, really, when you think about it.
But it's the same in the last decade. Only 2 of them went on to win. Well, when the WWE, or WWF title, only 2 of them did.
Yeah, but even when you look at this, Joe, even men who even got the chance, who didn't necessarily go on to win it, but even got the chance or the opportunity to win it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of men on this never
match.
even got that opportunity, near alone succeed and actually
Like
win
to that main event level type of deal, yeah.
It wasn't the step up they hoped for.
It's also fair to say as well, that particular decade was chaos outside that one business. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, very true. So next up then we go to In Your House 1992 January. The Mountie picks up the belt off Bret and holds it for a magnificent 2 days.
Roddy Piper, yeah.
Before dropping it to Roddy Piper.
Yeah, it was. Did they call that event In Your House? Did they? Even that early on?
That one. Sorry, not In Your House. Sorry, a house show.
Oh,
it was
yeah.
A house show
Sorry, I didn't mean to call you out, Mister.
No, you're right. Sorry, I was just being stupid.
Spotted.
I was just being stupid. But
the thick cunt.
Inside joke.
So much heat.
Yeah. I suppose when belts are dropped on house shows, it is the inevitable that it's only going to last probably a week, isn't it?
Heat.
There you go. So yeah, Roddy Piper, obviously an emotional one for everyone on this podcast. Finally,
that was a hell of a one because, to be fair, that was his first goal.
Yes, it's probably the most richly deserved higher tier belt in the sport. I mean, it was more of a reward for service rendered than anything else.
Yeah,
not to take hand away from the man.
On a deal as well, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's rowdy, baby.
Yeah.
So then, of course, we move on and it returns again to the Hitman, Bret Hart.
WrestleMania 7.
WrestleMania
8.
8. Yeah.
I said 8.
And again, 146 days. Very impressive. And then, of course, we move on to SummerSlam at Wembley, where the belt is dropped to the British Bulldog.
And that goes nowhere.
Another extremely long reign.
How long?
A day.
I mean, I have to be careful what I say here as well, because you know what I mean. But there was obviously some demons.
You never have to be careful what you say here. This is our podcast.
How stupid of me!
Bastards.
I love you, Joe, but I'm coming for you. Now, yeah, like I mean, I assume the aftermath of all that, like that 1 day rain, just makes no sense. Was it 1 day?
That's what it has in the record books anyway.
No, it wasn't 1 day, because they definitely didn't drop it to Sean like straight away. Like that was a couple of maybe it was 1 day on TV.
I'm only messing. It wasn't 1 day.
What was it?
Out there? No, it was actually nearly 2 months actually, because it didn't get dropped till Sean until October 27th at Saturday night's main event.
I'd love to know how many times he defended it though.
Only at the airport on the way back to America.
He defended it a lot in conversation.
Yeah.
It's a great belt.
It's a great belt. It's great.
It's very pretty.
I love it. I have to say, I can see my dreads in it. Whoopi Goldberg in it.
They were cornrows. They weren't
cornrows. Sorry. Yeah, well, Whoopi Goldberg had dreads, didn't she? So yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
So
fucking pedant.
So Sean holds it for 202 days before dropping it to Marty Jannetty on Raw in New York.
With a smile, of course.
Yeah.
There's a smile during that period.
Just about. Who then in turn drops it back to Sean again at a house show in Albany, New York, who holds it for 113 days.
And the rope snapped at the top.
Yeah, and the smile went home and the belt gets vacated. This is the first vacation of the belt, September 27, 1993.
500 Marines beat him up, yeah.
I
was just going to ask, was that the time the Marines battered him?
Yeah. It was one job, but there was 500.
If anybody's watching wondering why we're skimming over so much of this, it's because it'll all be getting talked about sooner or later.
Yes, exactly. Jay is 100% correct there. Yeah, thanks for pointing that one out, Jay, actually. That's a good one.
Yeah.
So then the belt finds itself to one Razor Ramon.
Chico.
On a Raw in New Haven in Connecticut in 198 days. That's it. And then he drops it on Superstars 198 days later to Diesel.
Yeah. Gotta give the bigger man a shot.
Yeah. Who in turn 138 days later drops the belt to Razor Ramon.
Absolutely no title defense in between on that one, you can be guaranteed.
Not even a bump.
not even a flick of the hair.
Oh, I'd say there was a few bumps done between them, all right, but nothing in the ring.
Oh,
we
plead the fifth on that one.
This was pre-finger poke of doom.
Toothstick with a toothpick of doom.
Oh god, that was
so then Razor after 146 days drops the belt to a good friend of yours, Ian, from Dynamo's Dozen, Double J, Jeff Jarrett.
Yes, sir.
At the Royal Rumble in '95.
I was a big fan of Double J getting that belt back then.
So then the belt gets vacated again. Because of I think was a displeasure in a match or something like that, and on the same day it was vacated, Jeff Jarrett gets the belt back again.
I know all about that. There's certain people here that call you out, and call you stupid and all. So I know all about that displeasure. So yeah. That was 100% correct call from the office.
Absolutely. Who in turn keeps the belt for 23 years. 23 days. 23 years. Sorry about that. 23 days.
Game over. Podcast is finished.
And then in unusual fashion, up in Montreal again, drops the belt back to Razor.
Never heard of it.
Razor local gets it up in Montreal. Yeah.
Who in turn on a house show in, can't even pronounce that, but it's in Quebec, Canada, drops the belt back to Jeff Jarrett.
Wow. This is awesome.
So then,
Fuck.
I just, if you've ever seen a belt getting devalued, it's just crazy.
Well, like, well, let's like. So I'm sure we're going to converse on some of that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Chime in whenever you feel.
Interrupting the Wikipedia script read? Yes,
because I was like, all right, okay, I get.
He said he did his fucking homework.
Let's put some
Great
context
job,
on this
Hot
one. I think the context on this one is like when you talk about the early 90s one, that's a good one, Noel, because obviously Mr. Perfect obviously leads us into the 90s with the Intercontinental title, and what better man having formerly held the AWA Heavyweight Championship, coming off a fucking amazing run with Nick Bockwinkel, and goes into the SummerSlam 91 with a fucking basically a bad back, a legit bad back now. Not like some people, a legit bad back. And, you know, puts another lad over and hands it over. And that's finally where you see the Jim the Anvil Neidhart Foundation fucking break up. Did any of you ever hear the story that the match, the Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty match, the Rockers match, that Anvil was on the way to being fired after that show, and only that the top rope broke. Basically, they had to put the belts back on the foundation because they couldn't put it on TV. So he had a stay of execution. That's a true story.
Someone intervened.
Do you know why he was getting? Do you know what he was getting sacked for?
I don't know, Joe, because I was.
He was being he's too nice a fella.
I don't know. Yeah, I think some. Yeah, he probably had his own, extracurricular activity or something like that.
He was out shining Brett.
He was out shining Brett, yeah, and then he got called from. Don't call me stupid, Noel. What are you talking about?
Charity work. He was called for some charity work.
But then obviously, I suppose he got the call from the old man in Calgary, didn't he? Hey, you gotta get the big rhino a job. His wife's on me every day. So, Vince, what do you think you can do? And Vince would just always give the job, you know what I mean? So that's why Anvil was always ended up back. Like, I don't know why.
Very good. He deserved it.
I don't know why they stacked it, but yeah. So obviously, I mean, that SummerSlam 91 match for me, that's one that was a personal favorite for me as a young man, because I was actually, even though I knew Perfect was a bad guy, I still was a real big fan of him. Do you know what I mean? But even though I still had the Brett figure, I had the Brett. I actually remember watching this live. I remember it was there was a period from about 91 to 92 where you'd get, and plus that was summer as well, don't forget, where I was allowed to stay up and watch some of the pay-per-views, you know what I mean? And they'd get them in, you know, if you were lucky, they'd get them in. And I had the Brett and Perfect Hasbro figures, and I was like, during the match, like literally trying to make them do the exact same moves that I was seeing on TV. And I mean, I have to say, man, that is probably the best looking sharpshooter of all time, because it looked like Brett wrenched right back on the back. But those two were absolute solid gold. People talk about Shawn and Brett having chemistry. Those two, I think, probably had the best chemistry that I've ever seen. Brett or Perfect.
Is that the match, Ian, where Perfect's singlet snapped? And that
he pulled it off. That
famous photo of him begging off.
That's the one. The one. And he had the short hair. He got the worst haircut ever. He just had a big Jerry curl fucking afro.
Yes.
Yeah. It was like, I remember reading Brett's book. Actually, Jay read that as well. And it was like, Noel did too. Everyone has. I remember he's saying like, Perfect was so like fucking feeling weird about the fact that the barber cut his hair too short.
It just assisted in the gimmick, in fairness. I mean, it might have been a little bit subconscious in him, but it made him look ludicrous.
But I mean, when you think about, 100%. But Jay, there's a question for you, Jay. When you think about those two SummerSlams and then the main event for SummerSlam 92, Bulldog and Brett, like, do you know what I mean? It was like, that was the pinnacle of the IC meaning fucking everything.
Yeah,
because of
back when I was a wrestler strap. Yeah.
And even in between that, obviously Piper and Hitman I mean, you could see why people start loving the Hitman, because he really did fucking make that belt mean something, you know what I mean? And it was defended on every house show, on every fucking UK Rampage, on every whatever.
Yeah, it was the week-to-week strap. It was the week-to-week championship.
Yeah.
It definitely was. There's no question about it. And as soon as that belt was put around a worker's waist, you knew he was somebody you had to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, if it wasn't a reward system, i.e. with Piper, and he fucking earned it over a career of excellence. It was passed between men who weren't going to get the big one, but either were on the ascension to the big one, or the company knew, look, you're fucking brilliant, have this. Why? Because somebody brilliant's coming in to take it off you.
It's funny again with Davey, isn't it? Because then it goes, Davey wins the big one at Wembley, which I mean, still to this day,
achievement, yeah.
But still to this day is probably one of the best pro wrestling matches I think I've ever seen personally. Yeah.
But the only forgettable, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, like the only forgettable guy out of that lot is the Mountie, and he was literally the definition of a transitional champion.
And he was awesome. That was the thing.
I think he only had around his waist because of location, though, wasn't his family balls deep in that particular location where he won it? Wasn't
Quebec,
that a nod the head to the card? It was like, yeah, okay, we know who a lot of people here have come to see. Have this, the Mountie. Also, have a cattle prod.
Yeah. That was the thing. It was like, but then obviously Davey loses it to Sean, and then Sean is the champ. So it's like, that's the great thing about it. You can see already in the early 90s where Vince is kind of going. He probably doesn't even know it yet, lads. Realistically, no. But there's probably guys behind the scenes that know it. You know, Pat Patterson, and he's going, Jordan Brett, oh my God, too pretty boys, beautiful hair, yo, come on. And then obviously Lord Alfred is there, and he's loving the pink, and he's loving the sherry, and he's loving the
his element.
Oh, just in his element. So I think,
isn't everything wonderful?
So Niall, sorry to kind of, but there had to be some context on those early days, because I think that was really, I mean, there was some amazing wrestling matches there, you know. And Davey obviously wasn't in his best frame of mind back then, because he obviously went to WCW after he lost the belt, and was allowed to continue doing whatever the hell he was doing, you know.
But not just the name, not just the matches were great, but the names, you know. They go down in history. As I said, the only forgettable one of them is the Mountie.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's Rushmore material. Yeah.
Pardon?
It's Rushmore material.
Yeah, absolutely. For every one of them.
There's probably a future show in there as well. Fucking feuds that, you know, made eras, and you're talking about 2 or 3 different feuds that solidified why we tuned in. It was like, okay, we'll watch 2.5 hours of people with shit gimmicks to get to the fucking money shot.
We talked about on the last during the 80s stint, like how many times did the Intercontinental match steal the show?
Yeah,
just so odd, and that still they carried on through the 90s as well. Like,
wasn't that the first? That was actually the first time, Joe, wasn't it? That the Intercontinental title
was the actual main event.
Yeah, because it was initially meant to be Warrior, and
we had another job to do, did he? He had to cook grass that week.
Oh, he was there. He showed up for that. He was in England.
Oh, good, excellent.
He was definitely there. It was a tag match, wasn't it? Wasn't it? God damn it! You see, that made it's funny because I remember SummerSlam '92 like the day is long, but the pre-main event with Macho and Warrior. And who else was involved in it? It was Macho and Warrior, wasn't it? That's, you see, nobody remembers, but I remember Rick Martel and Shawn Michaels.
Yeah,
the blindfold match. No touching of the face. I remember the Road Warriors opening up the show, coming down on the bikes.
Yes.
But for the life of me, I know the Warrior was involved, and I think it was a match too long. It was just. What's going on? You've actually wiped my memory by going 10 minutes over.
Well, you know, he was probably halfway through a match, and then he seen a dog with a fluffy tail and chased it down the street. It's like, do you mind? We need another 6 minutes out of you. He's gone again.
Welcome to Manchester.
Welcome to Wembley.
And some say he's still chasing that dog around.
Yeah. I think the biggest fear was that Dynamite didn't show up that day and start kicking fucking leaflets around.
It's kind of fair to say during this period it nearly became like a TV title, didn't it?
Yes, I would say so.
Yeah.
Did you ever wonder why, Niall, that they didn't go with something like that, or even now to this day? I always loved it. I know you did as well. I always loved the idea of the title.
I think it was more. I don't know whether he wanted to be dealing with that amount of belts. He probably felt that like if he went against tradition,
now,
well, see, merchandise is king now, isn't it?
Hey, there you go, brother. You couldn't get Reggie Parks to give you 20 prototypes in a week.
Yeah, but I suppose even when you look at it now, the fact that you have like Raw tag belts and SmackDown tag belts, it kind of, in a way, it kind of lends itself to the shows because of TV. But it kind of kills the dynamic of allowing tag teams to show up on either show and kind of surprise us with a single set of tag straps. So it's I suppose it.
Also, as well, I suppose when he had his show on the road, you have to have a touring title. You have to have a title that gets onto the plane and goes to other countries and is defended in other places. Whereas your champs title is like, we don't need to see you every week. We don't need to see you. You need to be collateral. You need to be something worth the pinnacle of the year, as opposed to the pinnacle of why are they going to pay to see a bunch of men with no gold in the ring?
Nearly kind of a mystique to it.
Yeah.
Because that's sorry, lad. It's just that's always something like when they're a few years ago now, but in more recent times, when Brock Lesnar wins, disappears for months.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say that devalues it, but I think it's the complete opposite. He's the champ.
Prestige.
Yeah, the champ's not going to turn up for any chump or gobshite that jumps on the mic and says, I want to challenge for it. He's only going to turn up when he wants to, and he sees a legit, someone he thinks is legitimately able to take, to handle him. And I think it should be done way more often, where the top champ just disappears for a while, and you have people vying, trying to get his attention nearly. You know what I mean? To fight each other over, trying to get his attention to see if it's worth him coming back. Like,
but right now we don't want Roman Reigns to go anywhere. We're quite happy to have Roman Reigns every week.
I don't see that happening.
No.
It is definitely a tool of elevation. There's no question about it.
Yeah. We remember the previous week. I didn't say much about Roman Reigns. I'll let you gentlemen speak. Because I was coming for one Joe Doiden from Sligo. I was planning my attack, and he's never gonna know where it comes from, but it's gonna happen. But I agree with everything you said, guys.
Well, you can't be head of the table every week.
Exactly. I was sitting there trying to look mean and tough, so I was looking right at one man, and I said, Joe, I'm coming for that IRA flag you have behind you.
We heard you were going through the Herald's classified section looking for a few new podmen. That's what we heard. Onto the phone with your agent.
It's not true. It's not true.
Jobs.ie.
Not true. Not true.
This episode is sponsored by Jobs.ie.
He's here to stay. Unfortunately, he's still my tag partner. It was just a bit of a,
Joe, stay away from barbershop windows.
Why the fuck did you give away what I was going to do next?
Does he look like he needs a fucking haircut? Joe, stay away from Manscaped barbershop windows.
No, tell him to stay away from me. Offer him a haircut with a razor.
Forgive me. Where were we?
Where were we? As you were, sir.
Yes. Well, we're now going to move on to Shawn Michaels at In Your House 2. Who then drops the belt to one Dean Douglas at In Your House 4.
Do you remember that? The fucking scratching of the bleeding, scratching of the board. I used to have a great
Thankfully, not many do.
I had a kayfabe for that as well. What I used to do was I'd rub my hand, like that part, against the board. So you get that squeak and pretend I was putting my nails. Lads used to fall for it until they finally found out the gimmick and they see the big palm print. I was like, you bastards, you found me out. But man, I mean, Shane,
attention, Kelly, worth it.
Yeah, it was well worth it, yeah. But that was I thought Douglas for me was I actually didn't appreciate Douglas until later in life, believe it or not. When I went back, and Joe will actually remember this. I was never a big fan of him. You remember that? And I went back and watched some of his early stuff. Obviously, I know he worked a couple of the old territories, like Austin. You know what I mean? He would have been kind of Austin era, so he would have done like USWA stuff like that. Some of Jerry Lawler's territories. But when he came into WWE, when you actually look at his work, he was actually phenomenal. And again, like this is real time Click where they're like, "No, fuck him, we want him out." Blah. This is the Click basically. They fucked Douglas up. I thought Douglas was a great worker, and I thought he could have been. Because I don't know when we're going to talk about Shane Douglas or Dean Douglas again. So
never.
It's just So I think it's worth. But it is worth mentioning that he was a hell of a hand. That's all I'll say.
Oh,
you know what?
Oh,
sorry, Joe.
No,
Joe.
No, he certainly was. He was bloody fantastic. Not as Dean Douglas. That was a dog shit gimmick. But like when you see him later in ECW as the franchise, good Lord. And he's remembered, thankfully, that's what he's remembered for. And throwing the Eastern Championship Wrestling belt into the bin on
Noel
TV,
loves the franchise, he does.
Do you not know him now?
No. Look at him.
He was so good, man. He really was. He was brilliant as the franchise. Apparently, he was an absolute arsehole backstage.
I'd say so.
That's why you're watching TNA, Joe, are you?
Well, yes, I do watch it. Yeah.
Where was he?
I'm gonna have to step in for Joe now. I wasn't expecting this. I was ready to unleash hell on Joe, and now it's like, no, leave him alone.
You know what? Actually, no. In all seriousness, it probably goes back to what we were saying a few episodes ago. There's some men who roll in and expect the red carpet to be rolled out for them. You got no pals in that business, and you got no business talking to the pals of pals. Maybe he talked himself out of a job.
Yes.
Maybe he rolled in arrogant.
Jay, you're 100% right. Because when I heard the Dean Douglas story, right, now it probably wouldn't have worked because you're talking like early clicks. So like he probably could have went up and tried to get in with Brett or something like that. But Brett would have been like, Sean's a friend of mine, fuck off. You know what I mean? But Sean already had the early version of the Click. That hatred only happened because it was two men and fucking the big boss played those two pawns off each other. So yeah, like he probably wouldn't have had much alloys back then when you think about it, really.
Yeah, he probably rolled in, believing his own fucking mustard.
What you reckon,
Noel? Go to get a title. I was like, Noel,
here's one for you, right? Because you were watching this back then, right? So if you think about it, if you're coming in, yeah, and you're good, like you're good, you can work with anybody. But in like 94, 95, before WrestleMania 12, you're going, this Shawn Michaels is a prick. I'm going to go to the Bret Hart fella and see if I can get a word in. And then Bret's like, well, he's a good friend of mine, so fuck off. That's the answer you're probably going to get. Again.
Well, look, we know the power of the Click because on the same paper.
Where's your place?
We're giving them a day on this reign, but it's actually about an hour and a half.
I believe it was Razor Ramon, wasn't it? That kind of sealed the fate.
Of course it was.
That goal looks heavy, brother.
It was always Razor Ramon. It was always Razor Ramon.
Hey, Chico, that goal looks pretty.
It ain't gonna work for me, Chico.
My friend says I need your belt.
Chico went up to the fucking big Hulk dog.
I killed a guy. Can I hold your belt?
Self-defense, man. Self-defense, man.
Dean Douglas, good Lord.
No, look,
all right, go on.
No, I'll agree with you. The gimmick was utter dog shit. But he was good, though. He was.
The worker behind the gimmick had talent. Yeah.
But I think that was
to die on that hill, Joe.
wasn't that around the time when WWE were obsessed with handing out occupational gimmicks?
The Goon.
Yes,
it was around that time.
It was.
The new players. Remember the Goon?
You are the gutter cleaner. I clean gutters.
Noel literally has a Hasbro Goon on the way.
Well, let me tell you
something.
I'm the toothbrush salesman. They call me the toothbrush salesman.
And the one thing I don't have coming is a franchise.
You remember Man Mountain Rock would come in and pretend to shred on the guitar, and you were like, "What the fuck is this?" But then he also released some footage of WWE with Owen Hart and Jeff Jarrett and all as well, like some stuff that's on YouTube that I believe it was like lads taking shit and kind of getting sick and all. Like, so Man Mountain Rock, fuck you.
That's a bit mean.
Yeah, it was mean releasing private stuff backstage without letting lads know.
I believe you. I don't even know who that guy is. I was a big fan of the toilet plunger at the time. His gimmick was he plunged toilets. He was a great wrestler.
Hey, Joe will tell you, I'm not stupid.
He went on to work in TNA for 15 years. He was their champion of the world.
The secret's in the name, isn't it, really?
Okay, all I'm telling you is Joe will tell you, I'm not stupid or thick. I know when you're messing with me, right?
Well, let me tell you something, brother.
But we move on to the Royal Rumble in '96, and a man whose secret is not in the name, Goldust, picks up the belt.
Mr. Dustin.
A man to this day that's still proven he can go so good, like, and massive, like the gimmick is memorable. Like, let's not be stupid about it. It's everyone knows about it.
The man behind it, though, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Like but he's the kind of professional, like, that it didn't matter what gimmick he was given, he was always going to run with it, and do what he could with it. You know. At one point, didn't he go to Vince about getting breast implants and all?
Yeah.
You know,
that was probably to upset his father.
Yeah, maybe. But it was, he absolutely, like, he completely and utterly ran with that gimmick, even though most people would look at it and go, "What the fuck?" Because apparently, when it was announced, it was pitched to him. It was like, "Oh, we want you to be this androgynous character." He was like, "Yeah, happy days," and then ran out to get a dictionary to find out what the hell androgynous. You know what I mean? But he was all, "Yeah, okay, whatever you want me to do, I'll do it." And and that gimmick went on way longer than anyone ever expected it to. Really.
He's another one, Joe. Very good point, very valid point. He's up there with Taker in the sense that gimmicks that outlive their stay will continue.
Easy now.
Yeah, careful now.
Easy
careful.
But continue to come back into fucking vogue every 6 or 7 years.
Yes.
When you toil, and perseverance is the word with certain gimmicks.
But Taker, leave the Taker word out.
I can't. If you objectively look at that gimmick at the times and places it was in, it shouldn't have worked. But the man behind the gimmick made it work. Perseverance and understanding of the manipulation of a situation for your self-progression is fucking gold.
Jay, that's stupid.
Is it?
It's stupid.
What did you just say?
Fire me. I used a few words. I used to work in the WWE. They called me the dictionary.
Yeah.
I see your point, though. In fairness, when it comes,
you have to. I haven't left you any choice.
Yeah,
he has Goldust.
I do have a choice, but when you mentioned Undertaker,
that's stupid.
Same. Yeah.
I know where Jay's coming from. Like, the Undertaker.
No, he is right.
Yeah, it should have died after a few years. Like, genuinely should have. And
from plastic gloves to Harley Davidsons.
Yeah. And Goldust shouldn't have lasted nearly as long.
But he likes putting weird makeup on him at this point now, because he could be in like AEW now, lads, as Dustin. Do you know what I mean?
I have a caveat to that. During in the steroid days, Dustin wasn't physically built like a lot of the men who were running around, who were making their money off a look.
He was a tall version of his daddy, basically. So he spread out.
But he could fucking go all day long. His quality and a virtue as a professional wrestler, as a grappler. Yeah. Watch his fucking match with his brother at the original AEW, whatever it was called.
Dude, watch his feuds with Stone Cold. For anyone listening, watch his feuds with Stone Cold in '93 and WCW as Dustin Runnels. I mean,
he can fucking go with the best of them. He doesn't have to look at the best of them. He ain't gonna be no swimsuit model cover shoe, which most of the world is in love with. But if you dig deep into the reason the gimmick worked, the gimmick suited his physicality. He could go like a fucking genius, but he didn't look like what the world wanted.
Remember the Roddy Piper match? Actually, Niall, come on, bring us back to the Intercontinental title. I know that.
I was talking about Goldust, son.
No, it was because I was going to say though, Jay.
You also aligned him with Undertaker.
No, but I was going to say,
he
lines up with Undertaker.
Parallel gimmickry. You can't see that. You can't see two gimmicks that went from the cartoon era to the current day.
Well, that's at you
continued. You look at him shitstorting.
I could see the parallel, not the comparison.
Yeah, that's right. Goldust could wrestle.
Anyone's gonna look top notch on an AEW roster anyway.
Are you saying the Undertaker can't wrestle? Wow.
What's he on, his 6th pair of hips now?
Made good use of the first 5 sets.
Yes, he did. And I love the man. I fucking love him. But again, those parallels are quite equally.
Call him out on this, will you?
No, I know where he's coming from. He's talking about gimmicks rather than actual like career projections. He's just talking about 2 gimmicks that should not have lasted as long as they did. And that they kept.
You call me stupid for concussions, and you won't call this man stupid for fucking comparing Goldust to the Undertaker. Come on, what's happening?
He uses his ears.
What has happened in 2021? That doesn't mean there's much between.
Clearly,
Jay, you're 100% correct, Jay. He does use his ears. It doesn't mean there's much in between them.
100% correct means I can never be wrong, which makes me right again, baby. Woo!
Noel, I think there's a new fucking hot tag team up on the way here, and I think it involves. Anyway, Noel.
I think we're getting to a stage where we're nearly gone for the 6-man belts, aren't we?
Yeah, I think Joe and Jay.
Not looking good, Joe.
The Jay and Joe connection, I believe, has a new hot tag going on the way. This
Double J.
There's a swerve coming on here. Yeah, I think
I've always seen this as a Royal Rumble.
in business for yourself, Jay.
As long as I get.
If you didn't get that, Joe, if you haven't got that already, well, come on.
You don't see me on any other wrestling podcasts on the network, do you? Exclusive, baby. Woo!
You were on Dynamo's.
Franchise, Jay Kennedy.
You were on Dynamo's.
I'd like to refer to a one Bill Anderson interview.
He's a lovely man. I won't have a word said against him.
It's not being said against him. It's being said against your lack of understanding of where you were at a
just because I wake up every day and it's all new again. That's not my fault. I don't know where I am right now. What's happening?
Where it all begins again.
Hey, Noel, do me a favor. Look at me. Tag me in.
I'm even holding the rope.
Give me 1 second. Old hot tag. You have to do something when that happens.
Old hot tag.
Old hot tag. Fuck you.
You were just tagged in, Ian. You're gonna tag in and play possum. Go to the well one too many times.
I'm ready. I'm the worker here. You know, I don't stutter, kid.
Sorry,
You're doing that warrior impression again, brother.
I was talking to the Skellingtons.
Anyway, lads, back to the Intercontinental. God, this whole period. Goldust goes on and drops the belt to Ahmed Johnson on 1996 King of the Ring.
Speaking of that rivalry, Niall, wasn't there an angle in that where Ahmed Johnson told Goldust, "You can't kiss me," and he did on TV, and Ahmed Johnson actually wanted to rip him apart. There was something. Was he on a stretcher or something? Was that it?
I
can't remember. Yeah. But I remember the story. I remember the story where Ahmed Johnson was like,
that wouldn't have ended well for Ahmed Johnson, though, because those. I put my money on Goldust in that.
Not a chance. Are you kidding me? Ahmed Johnson would have ate him up.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm just fucking great. A little bit of fucking.
Yeah,
Ahmed Johnson is New Jack without the blade.
No kissing.
Yeah, he was just too big. He just would have gone.
I didn't think that one true. I didn't think that one true, lad. Sorry. Real life and me don't work well together.
But Ahmed Johnson, like in general, like they tried to strap a rocket to that man, but every time they did, he hurt himself.
I think he's on Dynamos, doesn't it? At some point, he's on one of our competitors' podcasts. Big shout out to John on the Wire, which is actually a good interview.
Not a competitor, a compatriot.
Absolutely,
friend of the show.
That's why I've actually called him out and said, John on the Wire, you're Pro Wrestling Defined. Go and check it out. Really, really good interview.
Absolutely, fuck yeah, wild card on the Wire. Another little warrior. Whoop whoop.
Yep. Yeah.
So Ahmed vacates the belt, and the belt ends up on a Raw episode in September on Mark Miro.
Now, hold on.
All right, Joe, you take this one. Yeah.
No. I just, all I wanted to ask was, did he vacate it through injury? Because that he was always injured. Every time, as I said, they strapped the rocket to him.
Golden Glove, like
He did indeed.
Yeah.
Mr. Golden Glove. He brought a hell of a wife into the business with him, though. Good Lord,
He vacated the belt because he went off looking for her.
Man, the amount of weight I lost over that woman. If you know what I mean.
No, I don't. You're gonna have to.
A certain part of his body, you know.
Yeah, your weight at times was quite fluid.
I don't understand.
Yes, sir.
You spent a lot of time walking. I don't understand.
I did have a hard time walking. Yes.
So,
go to Brock.
Sorry,
Brock. Don't kill me.
Isn't the rumor that Miro only got hired because of Sable?
Yeah,
that's who they want.
Johnny B. Bad wasn't wanted in 1996 WWE.
No. Vinnie Mac did have a hard on for his Little Richard gimmick over in WC, though. In fairness,
he did, but then he saw his wife, and then he got a real hard on.
And again, we were talking about earlier, exceptional mustaches.
Jay loves that.
I need a wee break. He's talking about his wang dang ding a doodle.
Judy Fruity.
Oh God!
There's another guy, lads. That, like we talked about it earlier, about the fellas that probably should have gone on to bigger things. Like Miro was brilliant, lads.
I'll be honest with you, Joe. I'm going to disagree with you on that.
Oh, okay. Right.
No. Just from a personal standpoint, I never rated him. I watched a lot of him from 90. He was 93 as well, actually, in WCW as Johnny B. Bad. I always felt that the only good work you would see from him was with good workers. I didn't think he was actually that great. Now, I have to say, one thing I will commend him on is the powerbomb that Sable gave him that time. The way he worked that for that to happen was absolutely phenomenal. But I don't know. There was something missing from him that I just didn't see. I don't know, lads. Disagree with me if you want, but there's something I didn't see.
Yeah, I'm not going to totally disagree with Gene. I can absolutely see where you're coming from. That the only time he had good matches when he was in against good dance partners, as Jay would say.
Yeah.
But like think about the dance partners that were in the main event scene at that time. He could have had some really good matches for those guys. Could he not have?
You know, I agree. I mean, like if I'd have seen I did see Mark Miro work like on Raw. Noel will remember this period where you'd see Mark Miro work, like a Shawn Michaels or something. And you knew then that he was in with the big cheese, but like it was just, there was something missing from Mark Miro that I don't know, that I just didn't get behind.
As I said, I always thought he should have been one. He seemed like a missed opportunity to me. I think
he was better than Lex Luger, put it that way.
Yeah, he certainly was. Yeah, we can agree on that.
We'll agree on that. Was better than Lex Luger.
What?
My Postman was better than Lex Luger.
Jay's never even had a wrestling match, and he's already better than Lex Luger. That's a fact.
I didn't say the fact.
Yeah.
I kind of always felt with Mark Miro that maybe he was in the wrong decade.
Yes.
In terms of
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I think
5 years out of time.
A decade too late, was he? Or a decade?
Yeah, a decade too late.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think he would have been great in the 80s, like in, Mississippi or something like that. You know what I mean?
He probably also looked sensational in a time when Vince was actually watching the competition and there wasn't too much over on the other channel. I mean, I can remember watching WCW on Saturdays. I went out at ITV, and it's a long time since Vince actually watched the competition. Probably seen a guy with a physique who had a bit of a charisma about him. I was like, he'd work great in my company. I was like, well, you don't even watch your own company anymore. What the fuck are you still doing on that channel?
All the while, Brett and the boys are campaigning to get Steve Austin over, and he's like, I don't see it. He's like, no, get him.
Yeah.
Get him.
I think Mero is a case of Vince's erratic guy. That's exactly it. It's always about 10 years out of time.
He's a weirdo.
But you can also see why he brought him in as well.
Oh yeah.
It's there.
I think he could have been. I think he could have been a lot at a much higher level than he was used, to be honest.
If he was given Joe, as you said, the right dance partners,
Yeah. And as I said, the main event scene at the time had great dance partners for him. He would have.
He was a good-looking guy, and I mean, he was a tough guy. He was a Golden Glove champion. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, he was a legit, dude. Like, I mean,
and he wasn't without his charisma.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, him and Triple H WrestleMania. It was the year before. It was the year before the Warrior squash with Triple H, and that was when they were in the. Do you remember that, Noel?
I do.
Yeah, that was the debut, and Sable was there. She was looking.
Maybe that's the problem. Maybe he just brought the wrong woman in at the right time.
I think so. Yeah,
the wrong woman, right time. Deadly. So he drops the belt, Jay, to our buddy Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
95% perfection, 5% what the fuck.
No, Ian changed his mind on that. He said he's 100%er now because Ian saw the big picture of what he was doing. He sees the big picture now.
I did say that. I said that a couple of weeks ago, lads. Come on.
That is true.
True. Who in turn then drops the belt to one Rocky Maivia.
Never heard of him.
As we speak of curly heads with short back and sides.
That's true, yeah.
Very true.
Now we're starting to get into some wrestling royalty here, lads. I've come over this tidal wave in San Andreas that the Rock goes over on the boat.
King Kong.
Never heard of him.
And Rocky Maivia drops the belt to one Owen Hart.
But lads,
that's an episode.
Yeah, but lads, let's Rocky Maivia. Did anybody anywhere think that guy was going to succeed? Much more.
Yeah, believe it or not, the lads that worked with him did.
Squash mash. Yeah.
Well, bar the click, but the rest of the guys that worked with him, yeah.
Okay. He's another Mark Merrow. Would you stop? He had a look at making a bit of charisma. There's only so far you can get away with that.
The sole reason that he's the biggest Hollywood star.
Don't know what you're talking about. I don't watch films. Are they good?
Well, I just spoke to you about San Andreas, didn't I?
He's, The Rock for me.
A game.
I was a fan. I bought the figure. Do you remember the old figures?
I have a figure.
Selling Bray Tesco. The old ones, the little rubber yolks. I bought one. I liked Rocky Maivia. I mean, I have to say.
So what you're saying is I'm going to be hearing his name soon.
You what?
I'm going to be hearing his name soon if he's that hot.
No, you're never hearing it again. This is the last time.
Fair enough. He's no werewolf.
He was good for a day, though.
Who isn't? That's the story of my relationships. Good for a day.
He was good for.
Never heard from again.
He was good. He was good for 74
I hear
days.
some of them are fairy tales, though, Jay. We leave that one.
Few and far between. Would you stop?
My brother.
So there's a reason I sleep on the floor, not just in the bedposts of left me with nothing but sawdust.
I know.
Jesus.
That is a serious brag.
Yeah. Lord.
Can you Rocky Maivia say the same thing? No, that's Mac Merrow talk.
Isn't he a motivational speaker now, actually, isn't he?
Jay.
Jay isn't.
Let's make that happen. Let me make you happen. Let me change your world in 3 fucking words.
Easy step.
I can, prick.
Are we going to hear that story about that day on the farm? No.
You know what, Jay? I would buy that book.
I am that book.
Jay,
Many pages left to be wrote. Many pages left unwritten. Nothing between the covers and nothing in front.
Oh, God.
I mean, where were we? Sorry, IC belt. Sorry.
Yes.
Oh,
Owen Hart. An episode in itself.
Well, let me just say a few words about that quickly, if I can.
Well, I thought you were going to say, "Let me tell you something, brother."
Well, let me tell you something, J.O. The fact is, last week you came at me, man, and all you did was you called me out, brother, dude.
I was talking to
So I want to tell you something, dude. The fact is, Wrestling wouldn't be here without me, brother. You hear?
Exercise left. Exercise right. There's no
This is a story
exercise.
needed to be continued, brother. You can stutter and shine all you want, man. But the fact is, Mean Gene, this guy can't even get his words together when he tries to talk about me in a sentence.
What do you mean, Macho? No, your wife's not here. She is definitely not in some other guy's apartment. I just got out of the shower. She's not banging somebody else, Macho.
Owen Hart, I was just gonna say.
Can we get back, lads? Can we get back?
Thank you, Joe.
Well, I have to say, my Hogan promo there, I thought was awesome. So there we go.
That was a fantastic impression.
It was like his career was toilet.
But no, the Owen Hart thing, like when Owen got his first IC title, man, like the great thing about it for me was because obviously, 94, 95, he's having that feud with the big brother, and it was great. Like, they're wearing the same kind of gimmick, except like he's wearing the singlet, Bret's wearing the long tights and blah, blah, blah. The younger, jealous brother. It was just such a fucking great feud. And like, I mean, listen, lads, I've been, it's so funny when people talk to me, it's like, Owen was better than his brother. I'm like, I have all of his tapes from Calgary and from Japan. Yeah, I know everything about the man. And Joe, you know this to be fact. I mimicked so many moves from Owen Hart, from simple little pins and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Owen is, without a shadow of a doubt, one of my favorite wrestlers. That was just so good that Owen finally started getting kind of recognition in his own right, and getting the Intercontinental Championship was amazing. And obviously he held it going into that kind of feud with Austin, which was kind of like the pre-build for the Austin Brett matches that were amazing. And I think Owen had a lot to do with that, getting Austin ready for that kind of almost limelight, if you want to say, for the main events in WWE style rather than WCW. Austin was always ready. I mean, look, you don't just win a king of a ring and turn around and go, you talk about you slam your Bible. Well, Austin 3:16 says I just whooped your ass. I mean, you don't. That's natural. You don't just come up with that. You know what I mean? If ever you want to go back and just look at awe in a man's face, look at fucking Doc Hendricks when he sees that line, Michael Hayes, you can actually see Michael Hayes just go, Vince is gonna love this. Vince is gonna love this. I mean, that was, I know it's not about Austin, but I think that Austin Owen feud for me was really phenomenal, personally. Owen also had that little feud with Michaels. Remember when he done the kick to the back of Michael's head and then he kind of dropped? Do you remember that in 96, Noel? And he lost a smile then as well, I think. Michael used to lose the smile a lot, didn't he, when you think about it? Fucking hell.
It's interesting when you hear guys losing their smile. It's like it's not a set of fucking car keys.
This lad was out every other week because he had a Barney. Like, it was like, what were you doing? He was definitely doing. There was some kind of weird activity going on with him and Vince. Anyway, but Owen, I mean, good lord, how good was Owen Hart?
He's the likable Hart. And I don't think he's the best Hart.
Well, there's 12 of them. Like, they're all pretty nice people.
I'm not questioning how they are at a fucking Christmas dinner. I'm questioning between the ropes and the turnbuckles.
I get you.
Always came across as the guy you rooted for.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
He's a fucking arsehole. Yeah, I loved him.
He played
the awards. He got it. He was funny.
No, but I think what Jay means. Jay,
brilliant.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think what you mean as well is, like, we knew he was the younger brother and he was trying to step out of the shadow. I loved that as well. Like, he'd go for a pin and he'd get a 1 and he'd be like, yes, and it was like, you're like, this guy is seriously trying to match the big brother here. Like,
no, I just really enjoyed watching him. He was enjoyable.
No, but that was the narrative I'm saying that the company was portraying. You know what I mean? That they were like this young upstart, like, and he's. I just thought he was. I agree. I thought
he was fully entertaining.
Yeah, he bags a personality, and he knew he was good.
He was fully entertaining. Every aspect of his career.
Very underrated, in my opinion.
Yeah, and one of my favorite rivalries, lads, was the one with Shamrock, where they had that match in the dungeon and the match in the
Lions
cage,
Den,
like,
yeah.
unbelievable stuff, like, you know. And let's be fair, they're not conventional areas to have a decent match in, and yet the two of them, you know, they worked hard.
Well, you see, I think what happened with Shamrock, Shamrock had been trained. I think he had been staying in Brett's house for like months before he came in. And that's obviously an IC champion we can talk about, obviously, down the line, Ken Shamrock, and how underrated he was.
There's an episode there.
Yeah, there is an episode there, because he had spent, I think, about 6 or 7 months living in Brett's basement or something like that, getting trained every day, like, and Owen was in there. So that's where you saw that shit from. But yeah, Owen Hart, amazing. Sorry. And I know, Noel, you're probably right. We are going to do an episode on Owen Hart, I'm sure.
I think so.
Absolutely.
That has to happen. That has to. No, but
sure.
Both of them, Owen and Ken, has to. Both of them.
I agree.
Yep. So he drops the belt to Stone Cold at SummerSlam.
When's he ever going to get an episode?
But the SummerSlam, Noel, why don't you? SummerSlam 97.
Yeah.
The inverted pile driver.
Yeah. One of the moves I presume you didn't take from him.
No.
Good.
Fucking hell.
Good.
Ian is seeing no humor in that whatsoever. It's like, no, I did not. Just full stop. No.
Always the ring technician.
No. It's the only time I've ever looked at Owen's work and went, good Lord, what were you actually thinking?
It was fucking.
It was a brain fart moment, unfortunately.
Seriously, yeah.
I
Like,
suppose
no good comes from it. Like, you can't do that move unless you're at least, like, I've never seen it done before. Never even seen it done before by a big man in that sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was actually just a brain fart. I mean, Owen was literally 5'9", doing it on a 6 foot guy.
But Ian, it had nothing to do with his height.
No.
It was all about Austin had nowhere to go. You know what I mean? He couldn't tuck his head.
Gravity
but you
damage.
understand what I mean, though, Joe, is that, like, if a 5'9" guy is doing it on a 6 foot guy, he's longer as well. That's the point I'm making.
It has nothing to do with that, dude. If you look at it, you'll see when a pile driver's done the other way, he can tuck his head.
Yeah, no, I know.
The other way around, he's nowhere to go.
He can't do anything. I know.
Yeah, it's just straight down the top of his head. Yeah. It's a fucking.
No, you are correct.
Whatever the hell is going through Owen Hart.
Next episode, that we will get into that in a different episode.
Yeah, we will do that.
Sorry, we're getting away from it. Sorry.
So he vacates the belt, and Owen gets the belt back again. Then at Bad Blood in Your House. Yeah, it's one of those moments, isn't it? Like, I mean, apart from, say, a wrestler who passes away, it's one of those moments that kind of robbed us of a lot of Austin, really, didn't it, when you think about it?
Yeah. It was just such a sad thing, Noel, because obviously at the time, Austin was like on
Warriors
the
cross swords,
trajectory.
they both throw the dice. Every time you get into the ring, bad shit can happen. What are you going to do?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So then we move on then. Stone Cold, 97 Survivor Series, obviously in Montreal, who's infamous, of course, with the screw job.
Never heard about it. Is it a new thing?
It played out well over the years, apparently, but I don't never.
I think you're slowly taking the crown for the stupidest one here now. You keep that up. And
Joe is the right man to point it out.
Whoa, Joe.
If you see Joe getting red in the face now.
It's hard to argue with a man when he's right.
So then on an episode of Raw, The Rock, not Rocky Maivia, The Rock wins the IC strap.
Oh, Jay knows him.
Who keeps it for no less 265 days before dropping it to not Hunter Hearst Helmsley but Triple H.
Do you remember the promo when Austin said that he would give The Rock the opportunity? I got bigger fish to fry. So if you want to come and take a shot at this Intercontinental title, take it up my ass. I couldn't give a damn about it. Beautiful. Yeah. The dog in the back of the car, right?
I used to love when he wiggled his head. I'm like,
I loved it.
I marked out for it. But is he new?
He was literally Phil Anselmo, man. He's literally Phil Anselmo, one-on-one proof.
It's amazing after the neck injury that the head wiggling kicked in, isn't it?
Well, I think it was because of the lack of discs that he could actually do the whole thing. Like, I used to be like this, and now I'm like this.
Maybe he was just stretching the neck.
Were you ever waiting at one moment when he'd wiggle the head and the head had just come away and go down his arm or something like that?
Like in Beetlejuice.
Yeah, and go back up around the other way.
His finger.
Like in Beetlejuice. Whoa, what's happening to that man's head?
Because he actually took the head wiggling from the promos and he brought it into the ring work as well.
That's 100% true, man. I never thought of that.
Remember, he used to go into the corner, be stomping guys, and then he'd walk away, go back around, wiggle the head, and start stomping again.
Yeah.
Yeah, the head would come off and go onto the top rope and make a loop around the ring, come back and meet him when he went in to start stomping again. Oh,
and you know why? The classic essence of professional wrestling par excellence happens between moves. It's what you do with your body that sells yourself. You get signature. That's what you do. That's what you fucking do.
We've spoke about it in so many episodes.
I'm glad you've done that.
You're always on.
I'm glad you've done that one.
Look, you're always on. Wrestling happens between the moves.
When people watch everybody knew what to do in between the ring. You're right.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
So we already alluded to the fact Triple H vacates the belt and the belt goes to Ken Shamrock.
Yeah,
who we just mentioned.
I wasn't watching back then. I can't believe.
Did he win that at the King of the Ring, Niall? Was
it? Ken Shamrock. No, Ken Shamrock. It was 98 Raw in Uniondale.
Oh, sorry.
1998.
All right. Because I remember he won a King of the Ring. I thought it was for the title. Vacated.
That's my biggest disservice to Ken Shamrock after the screw job. I didn't watch WWE. I was watching young up-and-comers that made the next generation good.
But you would have been heavy in WCW at that stage as well, wouldn't you?
Oh, knee deep.
Yeah.
Balls deep.
Balls deep. Yep.
One of the most genuinely one of the most impressive things I've ever seen in a wrestling ring was it was done by Ken Shamrock, and it was when he was putting a straight jacket and he hurricane ran it. I think it was Billy Gunn in the middle of the ring. It was ridiculous because he couldn't use the hands to post. He just stood there like that and jumped up, and it was a beautiful hurricane rana.
He's a freak. He's a human freak.
But the impressiveness also went on to Billy Gunn.
Oh no, it works both ways in that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Billy Gunn had to catch that man's leg to make sure that happened.
Yeah, but he had to jump up high enough.
Oh yeah. He's freakish athletic.
Yeah. No, he could springboard off his toes. An episode needs to be done on Ken. If that company wants to ignore him the way they're doing, even after what he did, after being a legitimate bad man.
And I think Noel, you would agree as well as a host, is like, we can put his UFC career into that one as well and mix it up because, I mean, he was
a bad motherfucker.
One of the most scariest men of all time. Like, in my
opinion, time when scary was real scary. I'm a massive Shamrock fan.
Yeah.
And everybody who wants to paint himself as a UFC original, Ken doesn't run around the world telling the world how he built the company, but he built a fucking company.
He did build a company.
And they never.
Do you remember that scene? Do you remember that scene in Wrestling with Shadows? My cousin pointed this out to me. Do you remember, like, you see, I think Brett's talking to, like, Goldust or something, and you just see Ken Shamrock in the background with a towel around him, and he's walking like that, like his back is too big for his arms to come down, and he's just like the scariest man.
Yeah. When the Nasty Boys try to kill you and you fucking find them and they run away, like, there's an episode in Ken.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
just don't ask him to come on. He might charge you money. Just ask a certain
he'd probably do it just for accolades. Nobody is willing to recognize him. Not the UFC, not WWE. I don't know what the fuck Ken has done.
Ken, if you're listening, we appreciate it.
He is a bad man.
We appreciate it.
He'd run an Impact recently, Jay.
Really?
Yeah.
He took a dick flip though, so that could have he lost a bit of notoriety with me when he took the dick flip. But
but he took the dick flip and then bet the piss out of Joey Ryan after he took it.
In fairness, in all due respect, he took a couple of dick flips against Tito Ortiz as well, but we won't even get into that.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah. You know what? Well, you know what, Noel?
The Huntington Beach bad boy.
We are the new tag team as well. Leave Joe and Jay.
Hands up, who'd say it to his face?
Only on Zoom.
There you go.
Hang on. Can I do this? Jay, can I do this?
Is that the spoon he stores your shit with?
I'm not saying nothing.
It wasn't me.
Well, I'm going to give him your air code, Miles.
Wasn't me.
Intercontinental Championships, yeah.
I visions of waking up in the morning, answer the door, and Ken Shamrock standing at it.
I know an O'Reilly around the corner that said he'd do a knacker fight with you for 50 G's. No,
hang on, I'll dye my hair blonde and freak you out.
Husband, apparently Ken Shamrock is at the door and he said you called him a shite in the bucket last night on a podcast.
You were always tougher than
Tell him I'm not in.
Come on.
Well, anyway, man, we alluded to the next holder of the belt when you mentioned Ken Shamrock with a towel around him, Mr. Val Venus.
Hello, lady. I mean, Val Venus is Jay Kennedy, right? He's just a bigger version.
Isn't it kind of a bit of a...
You've been talking to Val Venus's exes.
Yes.
It's kind of a kind of weird conundrum, isn't it, that Val Venus would win a belt at St. Valentine's Day Massacre? Isn't that kind of a dynamic there?
It depends on how many Valentine's Day massacres you've been at.
Or contributed to.
But he was another one for me, lads, that like I know personally, Mira, I know not everyone agrees with me, but he was another one I thought that should have been probably destined for bigger things than he ever was.
He had a cut, a look, and a mouth. He was perfect IC material.
You think so? Do you not think he could have been bigger? No.
He could have been bigger, but there was bigger above him.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I suppose he was at a time when there was so much talent that he was kind of lost in the shuffle a bit. Yeah, I suppose you had a good point there.
The belt he was handed was already stinking of fucking some fella called Rocky Moivia's sweat. It had Austin's sweat on it, and everybody's like, there's a 5-year gap between when you can look at that other belt and when you get to bring that other one home. And Val, I did and I didn't. I love Val. I love that he loved his gimmick and he realized the IC was as far as he was ever going to go. And his name is still in the mix because he knows who he is. And he put the work in physically. I mean, he looked great. He was ripped when he needed to be. And he was always in the mix. But he knew he was never going to get further than it.
But that's what I was going to ask that question to Joe, because I heard you saying that there, Joe. I heard you talking, Joe.
I wasn't talking about you
for 10 minutes. No, I was talking for 10 minutes.
What a stupid thing to say, Joe. No, it's...
What I mean is, I heard Jay talking, but I'm calling you out, Joe.
No, I heard Jay talking, so I'm going to call you out on it. No, honestly, I understand your question. You thought he was destined for bigger things, but like realistically, right? All joking aside, what could he like? How could you make him a world champion? Like when you had the likes of Triple H who were on the way up with their character, when you had the likes of Stone Cold. Like, I think Intercontinental was his level when you really look at where the character was and where it could go.
Yeah, no, Jay said that.
Don't take away.
Yeah, Jay and Niall pointed that out. They're like,
sorry,
if you look at the talent pool at the time, that was pretty much a threshold for. And I do accept that it was actually, I probably should have.
No, my apologies.
Also,
if the gentleman pointed that out, my apologies.
No, we need to stop looking at a point in time in a wrestler's career where there could be something after that. Understanding your place in the business and the IC with its rich fucking history.
But even Jay, the thing about it is, it's also like there is certain people, like we mentioned something earlier, and Noel, I know Noel will appreciate this, my new hot tag. It's very, very apparent when you see
it in.
Yeah, man. when you see someone like Stone Cold, right, that literally at the click of a finger can do that and have Jake walking down like an old broken down piece of meat and just, you stand there and coming back from the hospital, albeit, just asking what happened during this King of the Ring. Because he had to go and get sorted out in between his matches. Do you know what I mean? And he comes back and goes, talk about your Psalms. You stand there thumping your Bible. Austin 316 says, I'll just whoop your ass. That's the most iconic T-shirt in wrestling history. That's a fact. Ahead of Hulkamania, ahead of anything. Ahead of John Cena. Ahead of John Cena. That Austin,
and always will be.
Always will be. There's levels, right? There's levels. And like we know that Kurt Hennig could probably wrestle rings around fucking Stone Cold. We know that Rick Rude could possibly do that, even before the neck injury. But there's people that just sometimes strike gold. They get it. They're given the ball. You're either able to run with it or you're not. There's a reason why, someone like Shawn Michaels was given the ball for a year and his biggest opponent went off and done a TV show just to watch it fail and then come back. You know what I mean? That's
the right statement at the right place at the right time. Is perfect, and that's sometimes when the company meets the fan base, synergy happens, and it happened with Becky when she bled. It happened when Stone Cold just busted his fucking chops. Every so often, something happens. It's just like everything aligns, and it's right at the time. And it's enough to get a full fucking career out of if you're willing to work with it.
Absolutely.
Val Venus could talk rings around most of the people who are famous.
Yeah.
But he never had that one, put it on a T-shirt, get it going.
Exactly. It's like The Rock, right? You look at The Rock. I dare say that Vince McMahon will tell you that The Rock was probably his most perfect champion of all time because he never gave him a bit of bother. You know what I mean? Austin had his moments with Vince.
The Rock's different. He's a charisma machine. He's even an exception.
And The Rock is someone
that exception.
But he's also somebody that didn't have voices, didn't have much, didn't have many voices. And if you did, you don't know about them. Like he was wholesome. He was clean cut. He was a company man. He'd done his job. He went in, he clocked out. And, look at him.
You're right. He's no Rocky Maivia or Val Venus.
Exactly. Whereas The Rock, it is exactly, I mean, there's no way that The Rock is not the most perfect WWE champion in that sense that, like, Vince doesn't need to tell him that. Do you know what I mean? What do you want about? Yeah, The Rock didn't hold him up for 200 grand or whatever the fuck it was.
Best thing ever.
Oh yeah. Hogan never done that either. So
fuck him. He just gave Randy's wife away.
The only thing about the Ultimate Warrior at the moment, we're in the Kurt Cobain syndrome at the moment, where it's still fresh. The man's dead, and we have to pay homage to him for a little while. But
we better push on, man. We've a long list here still to go.
We do.
Next up, we have the Road Dogg.
Incredible work.
The Great Debate.
Terrible.
It was great.
It was terrible.
Yeah, the Road Dogg was never much of a singles competitor, to be fair. And like the lad said with Val Venus and stuff like that, he got to his IC title, possibly lucky to get that far even.
Oh, I believe so.
As a singles competitor, I mean, brilliant tag team wrestling. Like him and Billy Gunn were phenomenal together.
Yeah, Gangrel's levels of success. It was just one of them. Run with the ball, take a chance. Yeah. This is how far I made it.
Would you agree, Noel, that again, we talked, on a previous episode about New Jack. I think that's exactly where Road Dogg's strengths were. I don't think he was an amazing wrestler. I wasn't into this geriatric fucking, quick punches and all that. I always found him very hokey. I wasn't a fan. I was a fan of his family. Bullet Bob was absolutely a phenomenal worker. So was his brother, who became an amazing referee as well, actually. In fact, his brother was probably one of the most underrated wrestlers of all time in terms of being a being a guy that could make people, you know what I mean? Because he worked in WCW a lot, helping out the younger guys coming up. I thought he was a better worker. I always thought Road Dogg, he deserves his spot in WWE because of what his mouth made for him. Do you know what I mean? I just don't think he was a great wrestler, personally.
Not going to go very far with that name, is he?
Yeah.
I think of a lot of his success was down to his alliances that he forged.
Yeah.
More so than
well, I mean, when you forge alliances with the Clique, I mean, we've seen, should we say, Billy and obviously Road Dogg, you know, back when they were kind of blacklisted from WWE for a while. They were doing shoot interviews and they were saying,
and they were very funny.
Yeah, they were saying how much they'd love to kick the shit out of Triple H and that he was a piece of shit and that he was, you know, the biggest scumbag on the planet and all. And then all of a sudden they were best friends again. It was
then the second shoot interview. Oh, we didn't really mean that. They're sitting there, their DXT shirts and
Now, if you're talking about Billy Gunn, different conversation.
Yeah.
Very much so, Ian. Very much so.
Yeah, different conversation. One of the most fluid big men I've ever seen in my life.
We did initially interrupt you there, Joe. We got all into this whole. I've never heard of any of these two men either.
Yeah, basically, Ian just picked up the baton from where I started. That I think he was lucky to get an IC title. I don't think he was ever much, with of a singles competitor. You know, he was when he was paired with Billy Gunn. It was a stroke of genius whoever decided to put them two together, because Billy Gunn did the hard work while Road Dogg did all the talk. You know what I mean? And it worked brilliantly, and it worked phenomenally.
The Neidhart Foundation stuff.
Yeah.
Jim waiting, motherfuckers. I've been waiting.
Bollocks. And two broad shoulders carrying nothing. That's a different thing altogether. At least with Billy Gunn and
oh yeah, sorry,
fella,
that couldn't work.
That other fella whose name I couldn't. Well,
say it live on TV. Go on. Go on. Floor is yours.
Telly? We're on telly?
Yeah, you're on telly.
I need to call my agent. I need to renegotiate some shit right here, right now. I was busy talking to Joe. Do you mind? Put your hot tag away. Me and the commie are talking.
Niall, I'll tag you back in, Niall. Come on.
I'm away.
He's the host now. That doesn't work.
Oh,
so
Niall,
anyway,
you
Joe,
bitch.
You're not wrong.
You're
not wrong. One had the mouth, the other had ability. They work well together. And the two above them realised there's a couple of pieces of calico we can slap into a little fucking green and black, carry them with us for a little while, and everybody wins. And I'm not going to lie, I enjoyed it.
You're not wrong, Jay, though, in fairness like that. Oh,
I'm very rarely wrong.
I mean, that's...
Your ass better call somebody.
I mean, that lad had levels of charisma that you can't buy. Do you know what I mean?
There's tangible aspects in this world which are money.
And he's one of them.
Mouth is money.
It fit that, because that's exactly what people expected. Again, we talk about levels. You know what I mean? That shtick is what he needed to always do. If he'd have come out and done anything different, people would be like, bleh. No, it's like when you go and see Michael Jackson, you want to hear Man in the Mirror. You want to hear fucking the same. You want to hear Beat It. You don't want to hear the fucking tracks that you made off your new album, History. Fuck off. Yeah. See you later. You know what I mean?
Sometimes the odd couple make an even pair. And exactly. They did. They ran with the ball.
Yeah.
And you know what? One of them also ran with cornrows.
So Bruce Pritchard, why don't you bring us... Niall Hogan, why don't you bring us into the next one?
The next one, it goes.
You look like Bruce there for a second, I gotta say. You do, you gotta say.
That's your hot tag. That's your new hot tag. You swap me for this. You always look great under my reign.
Hey, Bruce Pritchard looks great too. What are you talking about?
Wow.
Jay, always your brother, love.
Hey.
Anyway.
Oh yeah.
We go back to Goldust, and from there we go to the Godfather.
Godfather, I didn't realize I got a mention on this one.
You're solo again. You just ditched the tag.
Jay,
Godfather and the co-host.
Jay,
sorry, forgive me.
It's about time. Come on.
Lads, we just spoke about lads who are much better in tag teams than in singles.
Now they're turning on us, Jay. Oh, all right. Now this is a team for the decade. All right.
No,
I
but
can keep up with me tags.
Jay, this is your Papa Shango moment.
Yeah, let's go.
I think this goes harks back to some of the other guys we were talking about. You know, the Godfather, like Val Venus and others, and he had a level, and he was never getting really, like, let's be honest. You know?
Absolutely.
And like it like, you know, like a deserved IC champ. You know, I think so personally, anyway. But it was never going to be a stepping stone for him to go on to the big belt.
I firmly believe personally, like, I was never a Godfather fan ever. I'm just gonna call it out as for what it is. I loved the Papa Shango gimmick. The fact that people shit on that gimmick and think it's shit, I think is ridiculous, because there is actually people in NOLA, in Nolans, that do act like that. They are voodoo priests and stuff like that. Now, some of it to certain eyes may be hokey, may not be. But for me personally, I thought it was a great gimmick. Thought it was one of the most underutilized gimmicks. I thought the time when that happened with the Warrior making the black stuff, the tar come down the face. I mean, I thought it was absolutely brilliant. I really do. I think it was actually, I don't know whether you gentlemen agree or disagree, but I really do. I think Papa Shango was a hell of a character, and I think that was perfect. And that was perfect for a world title as well. That character was actually that scary for many people. Now, I'm not saying a world title in 96, 97, right, lads? Don't get me wrong. But for that time, that character could have been tweaked. I mean, look, Jay said something.
There is no place.
We made a dead man Undertaker a big deal for 30 years, didn't we, Jay? We made a dead man for 30 years.
How can he be dead? How can you get insurance on a Harley when you're dead?
Why not have a voodoo priest for fucking some of that?
Sandy, I agree.
That's my opinion, anyway.
No,
I know where
Ian,
from.
You're not wrong.
Yeah,
for me personally.
I think of all, like, how many gimmicks did he have? 3 or 4, and like that was.
Well, they were the 2, weren't they? They were the main. Common Mustafa.
No, the whole train.
Mustafa. Yeah. But like, I think, I personally, I think that it was the Papa Shango, and the when he was right to center. I think those were the 2 best gimmicks he had. You know, the Godfather was a massively popular one, but like I wasn't crazy about it personally. Like,
I was.
What do you think, Noel?
So who's next? I didn't really. I don't know. I was never really a Papa Shango fan. I kind of thought the Godfather one was kind of cool with the whole train and all that kind of stuff.
Noel was a bit of a pimp himself back in the days.
No, well, I think I'd rather hang out with women than like a voodoo guy. You know what I mean? That's just my own personal preference.
You've obviously never known zombie women.
No, I haven't. Let's move on anyway. Let's go
uncomfortably on.
Yeah, absolutely.
That hot tag is well and truly dead.
This is feeling like Jericho's list of 1,000 and whatever moves at this stage.
1004.
Belt goes to Jeff Jarrett, and of course, then we know Jeff Jarrett drops it to Edge on a house show in Toronto, who in turn drops it the next night back to Jeff Jarrett at Fully Loaded.
Now, is it just me, or like, is Jeff Jarrett another one in WWE that should have got a much bigger push than he did?
Yep.
You know, and
a lot of times he had shit clothes. He was always 2 years out of the fight.
Yeah, but I think he proved in WCW that WWE missed a trick with him. You know, I really do. Like, because when he cut his hair and put the shorts on, like I think I thought that was a magnificent reinvention.
King in the Mountain, and he started that in WWE. Don't forget, because
that's what I mean. Yeah, that's what.
Don't piss me off.
Yeah. Like, don't piss me off, or listen up, slap nuts. Isn't that it, or something?
But don't piss me off as WWE and slap nuts WCW. Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry. But when he cut the hair and he started that and wore the shorts, like, and he started wearing the sunglasses and all that kind of crack. I think they missed a huge trick on him.
And he too held.
No, he missed 5 years out of time. I disliked him when he walked out with the cowboy hat with the blinky and the silly. That was 3 years out of time. He was a great wrestler, but he was wearing a gimmick that was old hat already.
Oh yeah, but I'm talking about Jay when he updated it. You know, when he left all that behind, and he put the shorts on and cut his hair.
He was tagging with Owen, wasn't he? And China.
That's right. Yeah. And I think then I think they should have run with him a lot more than they did. And I thought it was I think it was a very very big missed opportunity. Then he went to WCW and proved that he could hold the title. Granted, WCW at the time was a fucking mess.
But he was a good champion, though.
Yeah, but
he was. He's shown in WCW.
Yeah, no, but WCW was a mess. You had him, the likes of him, Steiner, DDP, Booker T, that were trying to hold that scene together. And I think they,
he was the glue, though, out of all those three guys you mentioned. Noel, I don't know whether you agree or not, but I know me and you have had many a conversation in private, and we said that before, Booker T, DDP. DDP realistically wasn't a world champion. I mean, it was a novelty act in a lot of ways. In my opinion, I think he was good. Don't get me wrong, lads. If people want to come at me, that's all right. There's a comment section for that. That's absolutely fine. But I think it was a novelty act. I think it was great that he got there. He was one of the bigger components for advocating fucking David Arquette holding the title. So again, you kind of lose me on that journey. I think honestly, without a shadow of a doubt, out of Steiner, and I mean, this isn't the Scotty Steiner that we're talking about back in the day here. We're talking about Scotty Steiner, the mathematician. And Booker T, who was obviously, in my opinion, still pretty green as a singles coming up into the world championship mix. So I think, personally, that Jeff Jarrett was the absolute glue that was holding that company together. And I think that's the reason that you saw the belt go on him so many times, and it always went back to him.
But does that not prove my point more that WWE missed a trick on him?
It does, yeah. I'm 100% in agreement with you. I think Jeff Jarrett, without a shadow of a doubt, could have been pushed to the moon in WWE, and I think he was right to be a world champion in TNA and in WCW. And I definitely believe that he would.
Agreed.
I think he could have been a WWE champion in WWE too. So,
yeah. So Jeff drops the belt to D'Lo Brown, who in turn drops it back to Jeff again at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
D'Lo, another one that could have done more. Don't think he was world title level, but probably could have been. Well, maybe just I think he could have could have been around in bigger rivalries. Maybe is that what I'm trying to think? Like it was just like bigger, like a bigger scene. Not the main event scene, as I said. I don't think he was that good.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think he should have. I think he could have been one of those guys, like Owen Hart, where we talked about these different rivalries he had. And D'Lo Brown, when you think of him, you always think, geez, D'Lo Brown was very good. But you don't think of any rivalries or particular matches that.
I think the problem with D'Lo Brown is I always found he was a lot more comfortable when he was around other people than when he was on his own. I think when he was on his own, you felt this sort of feeling of being exposed as opposed to not having something to lean on. I think when you're seeing him in, the various groups that he was with and stuff like that, and I think they even speak about it somewhat is didn't he come in and he was involved with the gangsters at one stage or something?
It was, that's right.
Stuff like that. So yeah,
downtown D'Lo Brown. Yeah.
So I think he's I think I always found him more comfortable when he was around people and stuff like that than when he was on his own. So I don't think they could have pushed him into more than what he was.
Would you put him in the category, Noel, of someone like like a Savio Vega, who was always a great hand? You know what I mean? That could really work. Had that kind of similar body type as well, but like could really work, and you knew you'd always get a great match out of. But like there was a certain level. Like I think a pinnacle for his career would have been an Intercontinental Championship. Do you know what I mean? Like that was his version of the world.
Yeah, I to be honest with you, I think the Intercontinental Championship probably flattered him. I think for me, I would think more that he was more kind of a
European champion. Yeah.
Not even that, but more kind of in the tag division and stuff like that with someone. That's what I kind of mean.
Savio Vega, that's why that came to mind. I think Savio Vega and D'Lo Brown would have been a fucking hell of a tag team.
Yeah, but I think that would have been more of his level. I think I think we already talked about Austin and the head knocking and stuff like that. I think when D'Lo Brown comes out as the real deal or whatever it is, the head's gone. And it's kind of like, I don't know, it doesn't sell me really, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like Niall. Think of it this way, Niall, right? Why didn't Jim the Anvil have a shot at the Intercontinental Championship then? You know what I mean? Because he would have been exposed. Because don't forget, wrestlers were exposed more back then. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion. I'm with you on that one, Niall.
Yeah, I kind of always felt in D'Lo Brown, I felt he'd come down and it was like as if he was coming down to the ring to announce that he was going to announce someone that was coming out, and he was kind of like their bodyguard or something. And then we got it was actually D'Lo Brown who was competing, you know, that kind of way. But I mean, no disrespect to D'Lo Brown at all.
No, absolutely.
But just, you know what I mean? I think his level would have been more around that tag division or involved in a faction more so than being out there on his own.
I don't think he had anything to offer, but anyway, get through some more of these now, especially with the new lads gone.
As I said, went back to Jeff Jarrett, and then of course Jeff at No Mercy drops the belt to China. So this is where we see China becoming Intercontinental Champion, which was
controversial, right?
Yeah, absolutely controversial. Who in turn then drops the belt to Chris Jericho. Which was
my man.
Interesting, and then it goes on a kind of a storyline where they're both holding the belt, Chris Jericho and China,
which was genius. I agree. Yeah.
And then at Royal Rumble 2000, back to Jericho again.
That was the triple threat, right?
Yeah.
With what's his name, Alabama Slam himself.
Yeah. And then you see the start of Jericho then at No Way Out dropping the belt to Kurt Angle. And this is where we begin to see the beginnings of one Kurt Angle sort of coming through and stuff like that.
He'll get his own show again.
Absolutely. Kurt then drops the belt to one Chris Benoit at WrestleMania 2000, which was interesting.
You heard it right, ladies and gentlemen. That name was mentioned on this podcast, Mr. Chris Benoit, still one of the greatest professional wrestlers of all time.
Quick vote. I'm going to call it. Are we going to do one on him or not?
Yeah, we are.
Absolutely.
If it's on me and Niall's watch, yeah, damn straight we are.
100%.
Yeah or nay? Yay.
Yay.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
One of the greatest. I mean, look.
We can't have.
He developed himself.
Pro wrestling without talking about it.
He developed himself on my personal favorite professional.
Neither here nor there. Just a quick skip. Yep. We'll go into the next segment.
It's happening. It's happening.
I think to not do it leaves too much gaps in the history of the business that need to be addressed, and you can't address them. It has to
be addressed, and honestly, and I'll be sober for that one.
Exactly, and we are not WWE, so we have the right to speak about the man, and it's about the man. That's it.
No, it's about his work.
So in turn, he drops. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Obviously.
So in turn, he drops the belt then to Chris Jericho, back to Chris Jericho, who in turn again drops the belt back to Chris Benoit. And if I can remember these matches, they were serious matches.
Oh, they were like the Royal Rumble 2001 match, the ladder match with the walls of Jericho on the ladder. I mean, the innovation of these matches is and Niall, that's why I could see you when you were talking, like when Joe asked you the question about like a D'Lo Brown or something. You were like, what was that level? And I know Joe was only asking it in terms of what is his level. But when you see these guys come in, the radicals and stuff like that, and you see them come in. I mean, like Eddie Guerrero, I've never seen a man literally widen that much. Like from a lad who was like pretty much my size now to go. And you see the level.
He went double beef. You never go double beef.
That they put in. I mean, Jericho and Benoit and Malenko, these boys put in was just absolutely phenomenal stuff.
And they came in ready made for the big.
Of course they did.
For the big show.
There's probably a fucking episode in them as well, isn't there?
The Radicals, the WCW converts, as I said, they came in ready made for the big stage. Like, sure, Jericho's debut was with The Rock, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean?
Benoit came in hot off winning the title from Sid.
That's right. I forgot about that actually. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. You know what I mean? So these guys were ready for the big time. and you know, and they you know, well, not half of them took it and ran with it, you know.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
And one got a mop for his troubles.
And arguably one of the best technicians of them.
Yeah.
True.
Definitely, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I'd agree with that, yeah.
Did you ever see his work in ECW, Jay?
Yeah.
Yeah, phenomenal.
Massive Saturn fan.
Yeah.
He's the outlier of that conversation who we need to have. The Radicals is a conversation that needs to happen. I mean, when you've got a stable that toy, why wouldn't you leave them together?
Not doing too well either as well, which is kind of nice to
listen, he's
talk about the man, like, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So then Chris drops it to Rikishi.
Yeah.
Again,
Rikishi is one of those lads. I have to say, sorry, I keep interjecting.
I love it. I love like Niall's going, fuck you, Joe.
Sorry, Niall, I'm sorry. But like Rikishi's one of those guys that at the time I fucking hated Rikishi. You know, genuinely, I thought he was dog shit, thought he was terrible. But now looking back at it, it's like, actually, that dude knew what he was doing.
I'm a head shrinkers guy, personally.
He was stuck with a pretty awful gimmick, let's be honest. Like. But the dude could go, like, he knew what he was at.
I learned to love him because of our Rumble reviews. He just kept coming up. I remember I fell in love with him after a load of our. Remember we did Rumble months? That should never happen again. I seen a load of Rikishi.
By Samu Fatu the other week, and I was actually really happy with that because Samu was actually always my favorite head shrinker, and I had the Hasbro. If anyone recalls the Hasbro.
Samu.
Yeah, and I got Samu. Samu was always the more gnarly looking one. You know what I mean? He had the fucking. He looked like Sabu basically. I remember actually the first time I saw like, you know, pro wrestling PWI top 500. I was like, is that Samu again? I was like, oh no, that's Sabu. Sorry, now I get it. But they had the same look, and yeah, so I'm gonna try and get that guy on. Anyways, sorry, Noah.
No bother at all. Rikishi then drops it to Val Venus.
All right, we said what we need to about him.
About Val, yeah. Who in turn drops it to China.
Yeah, let's skip.
The person, not the country.
Yeah. And who in turn drops it to Eddie Guerrero.
Is he another new fella, is he?
Yeah, well, that's a conversation in its own right. Eddie Guerrero as well.
Never heard of him.
One of the best. In fact, I mentioned earlier that Rey Mysterio.
Go back to our Spotify before we were on YouTube. We speak well of Eddie and all these people who are new, who we never heard of before.
Eddie Guerrero was just
before my time as well, Jay.
Before the handlebar, before we could even steer the ship.
I was showing lads in one Pres Bray, literally on VHS tape, that thought Stone Cold Steve Austin and all these lads were great. I was like, watch this WCW Nitro, watch Dean Malenko.
There's a reason.
Eddie Guerrero. Just watch it.
Yeah, but that's
unbelievable.
You know, but that's you as a wrestling fan.
But the people loved it. They loved
that's
it.
you as a wrestling fan. They, you know, like, to be honest, including myself at the time, before I actually started to wrestle, I was a pro wrestling fan. So I was all about the entertainment, the big, you know, nonsense. It was only when I started to wrestle that I became a proper wrestling fan and started to see the likes of, you know, the joys of watching the likes of Malenko and the Lance Storm and all this, you know, these real technical guys. Before that, it was all bombastic nonsense I loved. You know what I mean? Like, you know,
skilled in the ring.
Jay, you picked up on that as well, Jay, did you?
I did.
You picked up on that as well, did you? That a proper wrestling fan, huh?
Joe.
You know, they're
Shut
Joe's
your
words.
mouth, Joe.
They're
speaking.
Joe's words, not mine.
Shoot, son. Take those handlebars and give us both barrels.
No, I was just saying that Ian was an actual wrestling fan, whereas those people who shown those VHSs to were pro wrestling fans. That, like myself, they were into the big bombastic nonsense, and I loved all that. And it was only, as I said, when I started wrestling, I became an actual wrestling
finesse.
Fan. Yeah, exactly. I started.
Skill. Yes.
Yeah, and a lot of these guys came to the fore that I appreciate, like they were good wrestlers, but I didn't appreciate them. And I started to really kind of start to examine them and look at them.
Hone in on
Joe
skill.
appreciated that when he got in the ring with me one day and went, "Oh, good Lord, I'm in with a master."
That's not what he said to me. What he said was, I just left the ring with a toilet brush,
Ask
and
him.
now I am looking for caviar.
It's true.
Do you have any? I'm like, here, Joe, fuck the rugged Granny Garvin stomp. What you need is the man of 1,000 holes, the Iceman here. Have this fella. And
You didn't
Joe's
get
all
the
like,
Iceman, you got the
boom.
Kelly fella from Bray.
Hands of stone.
Yeah. It was
When you
good
want to
enough
work
for him,
with
though.
a
It was good
fine
enough
tooth
for him.
comb and you're handed a toilet brush.
Hey, if it was good enough for Finn Balor, it's good enough for me.
We're
Yeah, listen,
gonna
everything.
we're gonna round out this decade now, lads, with the last two. Eddie drops the belt to Billy Gunn, and Billy Gunn in turn drops it to Chris Benoit. And that rounds out the decade. Chris Benoit, December the 10th, 2000 at Armageddon.
Now, I can't be on my own, lads, surely. Billy Gunn.
Go for it.
Billy Gunn was surely destined for bigger things.
Yes.
Like he looked amazing. He wrestled phenomenally. Now, granted, his mic
He
work
couldn't
wasn't the
promo
best.
for shit.
Yeah, his mic work wasn't the best. And like they did him a disservice throwing him in the ring with The Rock. And The Rock.
But
buried
saying
him,
that
like.
though, I don't think he was that bad on the mic. At the end of the day, when you're putting him in a certain situation, like for example, you're putting him in with Road Dogg, so he's obviously your go-to, right? For promos. So how is he ever meant to develop if he's constantly just in there, you know?
Shouting sucker. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Triple H wasn't too good on the mic either when he was walking down in the little.
Not every horse can win the Grand National.
And I think realistically, that's what it was. I mean, that you can actually sense the jealousy and hatred between Triple H and Billy Gunn. Even when they done that Hall of Fame, remember the one, Noel? And he goes, that pissant company, and like, you know, you can tell Billy Gunn was probably going, I'll fucking fight you, boy. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a Texas boy, I will kill you. It's like, I would say H definitely had, without a shadow, without jealousy, of Billy Gunn in terms of they were a similar size. Billy Gunn was actually bigger, to be fair. Much bigger man, much better wrestler, without a shadow of a doubt. There's no even comparison in terms of technical skills between Triple H and Billy Gunn. I think Billy Gunn is one of the wrestlers of all.
Comparisons, forgive me. The X comparisons are pointless. When you start a stable...
Yeah, because they pigeonholed them. They took all the good lads and made them a certain...
Well, no.
way.
When you start a stable and Rick Rude is already wearing a three-piece suit and not in the ring, everything else, H might have...
he did.
But Rick Rude was always the quality in that stable. When he left it went to shite.
Yeah, I mean, like in terms of, for me personally, from a personal standpoint, I would like anything I watched Billy Gunn do in a ring was, I always found...
No, they did come a lot later, in fairness.
Far superior to, Triple H personally, just in terms of his in-the-ring work. You know what I mean? Obviously not character work, but...
Fair.
No,
and they were all shy compared to Rick Rude.
Oh, yeah, that's a fact.
No, I'm with you, Ian. I think Billy Gunn should have had bigger days in the ring, personally.
They put him in Billy and Chuck in a gay relationship, like just for the sake of it, like.
Yeah. Look, after.
I wonder who you upset.
Yeah, no, it was Hunter. After the Outlaws broke up.
No shit.
Yeah, after the Outlaws broke up, and as I said, he got buried by The Rock on the mic. He got saddled with just with the likes of the Chuck Palumbo thing and stuff, because they just didn't know what to do with him. But he was quality, like. Yeah,
Chuck Palumbo and also another good.
Yeah, Chuck Palumbo was quality too, like. But,
isn't he having a little late revival now, though?
It's a good job, Noel, that they didn't do it to Sean O'Hare, because he would have boxed the head off them all.
Yeah,
that's a fact, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I remember actually being up in Belfast with Joe, actually, and we went to a show, and we were literally, our seats, Joe's mammy actually brought us up, if I recall. And
the poor woman sat in the car park for a few hours.
She sat in the car park for 4 hours. This is a true story, right? And we were actually right at the entrance. we were right at the entrance, so we were at the guardrail as well. So like you could see the boys coming down. And I remember Joe was laughing at me because I was like, "What height are they? I want to make sure there's." Do you remember? And I was like, "Oh shit!" I have to say, the smallest of all that I didn't expect to be that short was Eddie Guerrero. Do you remember how short he was? He was just like literally a short man. You know what I mean? I think he was billed at 5'8", but you knew he was at least 5'6". You know. I remember
Benoit shorter than me.
Oh yeah, for sure, Jay. Yeah.
Well, fuck, maybe I need to
but I remember,
my
yeah,
future.
but I mean, jacked, like literally like a ball of muscle, like. But I remember Benoit coming out, and I remember saying to Joe, Benoit walked out, right, and literally all you could see was veins in his back. And Niall, I know you've met Benoit before as well, and you probably can concur with that. We're like, what is this man? Like, he's like Thor.
Absolutely, yeah. He's just granite. Absolute granite.
Absolute granite. Like, you shook his hand, like, and I mean, he's not a large man. I mean, he was only about your height. He was probably our height, realistically. He wasn't tall. Yeah. But Jesus Christ, he's like, you know, you met Brett before as a big man, and he's like, his hands are like just shovels. You know, he's just big. Yeah. But you meet someone like Benoit, it's like, here, I'm gripping your fucking hand.
Yeah, a handshake off Chris Benoit. I remember we were in a queue to meet him and stuff like that, and he kind of shook everyone's hand the same way. But you knew he had shaken your hand when he shook your hand. Like, it was just that you could feel the power in it. You know what I mean?
He didn't give you the worker handshake.
No. I don't think Chris Benoit ever gave anyone a worker's handshake.
No.
But he was he was a beast of a man, no doubt about it. Like,
I suppose in closing that as well, the only worker handshake I ever got, which was from Mr. Intercontinental title himself, was Chris Jericho in what's the fucking Bruxelles in Dublin. Small little underground bar, which Shay knows very, very well. And it was after a fuzzy gig. Oh yeah, without a doubt, shithole.
It was a piss hole.
It was after a fuzzy gig, and I'm there talking to one of my boys who had supported Raj, who you know, Jay, had supported the gig, and I was like, "Where is he? Where? Oh, me too. Shout out to you, Raj. I know Raj.
Yeah, Raj. You're not watching a podcast. Fuck your life.
No, he does. He listens to these.
Does he?
He does.
Yeah, Raj.
So I remember saying to Raj, "Where is he?" Because Raj kind of gave me the heads up, like, listen, we don't want many people down. Jericho's down here. Come on down and fucking meet the man, like, you know what I mean? And I'm there talking to Raj. Where is he? And he goes, and I'm drunk, and I'm wearing like an edge. I'm wearing like an edge top, and I remember what's his name? Who was fucking your man Niall that was replaced. Someone anyway, he was going, oh, don't talk to him about wrestling. Don't talk to him about wrestling.
I love Niall. He's a great singer. Easy Tiger. Fuck yeah.
That's him.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I won't. But I forgot to zip up the fucking top because I planned to. I just forgot to. And I see Jericho there and he goes, he's right there. And I look around and there's Jericho. I was like, well, he's not that tall. He's only my height. And I'm there going, oh. And he goes, all right, I was told not to mention anything about wrestling. So I remember just kind of turning around and going, hi, I'm Ian Kelly. Nice to meet you. Put his hand out. Very, very respectful handshake. And I was like, what do you think of the new Kiss album? I don't like it. I was like, all right. Well, what do you think of the last Kiss album then? He goes, that was better. I was like, do you like Pantera? Nah, not really a fan. And I just turned around. I was like, yeah, I've had enough of you. Zipped up the jacket, said, fuck off. If you're going to diss Pantera in front of my face, fuck you, man. No, in fairness, we had a couple of like interactions then. I kind of turned around to Jericho. I mentioned about, because at this time, this is before Finn Balor was a thing, right? And I was like, I know he told me not to mention wrestling, but I'm going to have to say something. I was like, what do you think of Prince Devitt? So I'm obviously always the consummate fucking fan of Coach, right? You know what I mean? I'm like, I'd love to know what this fucking absolute legend thinks of what Prince Devitt's doing. And he's like, I don't know. And he was like, I don't know who you're talking about. I was like, Prince Devitt, like, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, oh, that's the ripped kid. This is his exact words. He goes, that's the ripped kid. And I was like, yeah. And he goes, yeah, I like him. That was it. And I was like, but you know what? At least we have some sort of common ground.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, at least. But then again, like anyone that hears the Phil Anselmo podcast, I mean, Phil Anselmo had his own thing to say about Chris Jericho, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
I could get that little fucking short ass and smack his head off the ground with one hand, man. So.
I don't know. That man was willing to fight Brock Lesnar, so I don't know.
Yeah, I still put my money on Phil, though. It's weird.
Yeah. And I would definitely put my money on Brock Lesnar.
Oh yeah, above all. But but Phil also said that on the show. He said me and Phil couldn't touch Brock. Go back and listen to it, lads.
Well, anyway, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure reviewing another decade of dominance in the IC title. Head over to YouTube, smash that subscribe and bell notification button. Dynamo Podcast Network, anchor for audio versions of the show. This has been your 4 Podmen look back at the IC title from 1991 to 2000. Pleasure as always, man.
Always.